two, 1 2. 1 2, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. 1 2. Testy, testy. Test, 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 test. Okay. 1 2, 1 2. Alrighty, there we go. That's good. Boom. Camera on. Oh yeah. Alright, hey everybody. Welcome to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit, a Friday night live stream. I think I want to be able to do these regularly on a Friday, because I've kind of been skipping about all over the place. But Friday's kind of working for me. You know, I have a job and shit. I have to work for the man, like everybody. But yeah, I've decided to go back to a camera as well in the studio rather than just me voice. I think it works better. But I had to get over the fact that I'm going to have to look at myself on the screen. I really don't want to do that. But yeah, so welcome everybody. It's live on YouTube. This will be going out as a podcast, as you know, over the weekend. Hopefully ready for, well, should be ready for your Monday commute. Tonight we're going to be talking about cost of living crisis, the price of, well, everything is going up. Heating costs in the UK and Ireland are going through the fucking roof in a very shocking way, and it tells its own story, doesn't it? You know, the way that these things are happening. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Nancy Pelosi, that mad old fucking senile bat, and she is. You know, this is a woman that's 82 years of age. Not being ageist, just saying, there comes a time, fucking retire. It's not like she needs the fucking money, and she's not doing any good for anyone. We won't be talking about her, a couple of videos. Well, when I start talking about her, I'm going to be laughing at her, because she's a fucking harridan, and I will laugh at her, and I do respect my elders, but in this case, I can't. So, but first of all, what we're going to talk about is this. So I'm going to pull this story up for you. This is a story from, actually, I'll just open the, oh, I can hear someone out the back trimming their lawn. So if you hear that, I do apologise. So we're going to talk about this story. Where are we here? So there's my browser. It's about CBS, the American television network. They did a documentary on Ukraine. Or more importantly, about the military aid that has been flooding into Ukraine. Now, again, going to preface this, as always, when you talk about these things, what tends to happen is people tend to assume that you're some sort of an apologist for what's going on or whatever. Again, and every time I talk about these issues, especially with Ukraine, because I know it's very sensitive, and so it should be. My solidarity and my sympathy and my thoughts and go with the ordinary working class. I see the world through working class lens, through a class war class lens, and my sympathy lies with the ordinary working class Ukrainians and Russians, soldiers, boys and girls that are dying for fucking nothing. This war didn't need to happen, I believe. Again, like you, I'm an expert on Ukraine war overnight, but you know what I mean. This has been going on for a very long time in Ukraine, and this didn't need to happen. And I believe, and the reason I'm going to talk about the Taiwan thing as well, because I believe that they're connected. I believe that the US is using Ukraine and Taiwan to fight a proxy war, and they're prepared to fight, as they keep saying, to the last drop of blood of the last Ukrainian, and it's so fucking sad. And that European countries and Ukraine especially have fallen for this. if Ukraine is basically a slush fund now. It's just been flooded with money. There was massive amounts of, what was it, 54 billion or something a few weeks ago, and since then there's been another 4 billion and another 1 billion. It's just insane. And so here's a report by antiwar.com, but this was printed on an outlet I follow called, you can see it up there on the screen, The Grey Zone. So I'm going to read this. This is called, and it's about a documentary that was written at. So, actually, do you know what? I will play you a video first. So let's do the video, which explains the thing better. Browser. CBS video. Here we go.
In the past 2 months, we've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine at record speed. Drones, grenade launchers, machine guns.
We're seeing this incredible, historic flow of weapons coming into Ukraine. Do we have any sense as to where they're going?
We don't know. There is really no information as to where they're going at all.
You know, all this stuff goes to the border, and then kind of like something happens, it kind of like 30% maybe reaches its final destination.
30%? Are you concerned about
30% reaches its supposed final destination? We're talking tens of billions of dollars worth of military grade weapon, right? 30%.
weapons getting in the wrong hands?
I don't care at all whether that happens.
What sort of a unit do you command? Can't say. Okay.
You know, there are like power lords, oligarchs, political players.
One of the biggest targets are convoys like this transporting weapons.
Вот там блокпост, где мы ехали, только что въебались туда, прямо в пост. За деревьями. Вот там парламент есть.
Europeans had come to believe that that project of integration had effectively meant the banishment of armed force. All of a sudden, not far from the borders of the EU, was the most significant war since World War II.
So there's the documentary, right? So wait to hear this. CBS deletes documentary promo on corrupt Ukraine military aid after US government pressure. So the corporate network's cave-in followed a coordinated wave of outrage from the Ukraine lobby and pressure from the Pentagon. CBS News retracted a documentary it briefly released on Sunday after pressure from the Ukrainian government. The original documentary, watch it here, CBS put out, there's a link for it. CBS put out The original documentary CBS put out examined the flow of military aid to Ukraine and quoted someone familiar with the process who said in April that only 30% of the arms were making it to the front line. All of this stuff goes across the border, then something happens. Kind of like 30% of it reaches its final destination, said Jonas Oman, the founder of Blue Yellow, a Lithuania-based organisation that CBS has been meeting with and supplying frontline units with aid in Ukraine since the start of the war in Donbass in 2014. 30 to 40%, that's my estimation, Oman said. So did you pick up on that little bit there, by the way? How did I get rid of that there? Meeting with and supplying units with aid in Ukraine since the start of the war in Donbass in 2014. So that's what I'm saying. This has been going on a long time, this shit. After the documentary sparked outrage from the Ukrainian government, it was removed from the internet by CBS. In an editor's note, CBS said it changed the article that was published with the documentary and that the documentary itself was being updated. The editor's note also insisted that Oman has said the delivery of weapons in Ukraine has significantly improved since he filmed with CBS back in April. So we're not talking a long time. Well, the war hasn't been going that long. Well, if you were in the middle of it, you wouldn't say that. Although he didn't offer a new estimate on the percentage of arms being delivered. The editor's note also said that the Ukrainian government noted US Defense Attaché Brigadier General Garrick M. Harman arrived in Kiev in August for arms control and monitoring. Defense attachés are military officers stationed at US embassies that represent the Pentagon's interest in the country. Previously, it was unclear if there was any sort of military presence at the US embassy in Kiev after it reopened in May. So, only in August has the Pentagon sent someone to monitor what's happening to these weapons. Now, a part of the concerns that you would have, especially if you're European, is where if only 30% of them are making their way to where they're supposed to go, to frontline soldiers, where's the rest go? Well, they go into the black market, right? So I happened to know, I was listening to another podcaster the other day, and someone was saying you can go onto the dark web and you can buy a Stinger missile for 30 grand from this supply of weapons. So, two things. Obviously, the Ukrainian soldiers aren't getting what they are being promised, which isn't good for them. And there's a arms supply in Europe now, in mainland Europe. You know, that's terrifying. That's really, really terrifying. So you can go and buy yourself a nice wee shoulder-mounted Stinger missile and take down an airliner or blow up a bank. You know, so, and this is a part of my theory that this entire it's a US proxy war against Russia. It's to do two things: one, to try and bleed Russia, and two, to act as a slush fund for the military-industrial complex. And for me, this is indicative. This is a little bit of evidence that suggests that would suggest if the concern was to get the weapons to the soldiers, the correct measures would have been put in place right from the very start, not from August. Right? You know, the war's been going for 5 months, and then you start monitoring this stuff. It would have been done right from the very beginning. I get it. Maybe at the beginning it was a bit of a panic, a bit of a rush. A few things would get lost, but not 70%. I mean, who's handling your supply line? Sergeant Bilko? That's insane. So, in the documentary, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, probably got that wrong, said the retraction by CBS was not enough and called for an investigation into the documentary. So the Ukrainians obviously aren't happy about that. Welcome first step, but it's not enough. In the documentary, Oman described the corruption and bureaucracy that he has to work around to deliver aid to Ukraine. There are power lords, oligarchs, political players, he said. The system itself is like, we are the armed forces of Ukraine. If security forces want it, well, the Americans give it to us. It's kind of like power games all day long, and so eventually people need the stuff and they go to us. Other reporting has shown that there is virtually no oversight for the billions of dollars in weapons that the US and its allies are pouring into Ukraine. CNN reported in April that the US has almost zero ability to track the weapons it is sending once they enter Ukraine. One source briefed on the US intelligence described it as dropping the arms into a big black hole. Now that's worrying, right? That's, again, I said from the perspective.
In the past 2 months, we've moved weapons and equipment to Ukraine at record speed. Drones, grenade launchers.
Why is America only ever, I mean, the whole fucking idea is just to drop bombs and guns and bullets and missiles, and we're going to help you how? We're going by arming you to the fucking teeth. It's insane. So, again, the frontline Ukrainian soldiers who are dying aren't getting this stuff, and that's a fucking problem. But also, this is, again, indicative of the corruption at the centre of this system. This war is a slush fund. That's what this is. I'm not passing judgment on the virtuousness or lack of it of anybody involved in doing the fighting and doing the dying. I'm not saying that. That's not my That's not the point of what I'm saying here. I'm saying that there's working class boys and girls out there doing the fighting and doing the dying. And they're being egged on to do it. And they don't need to be. So there we go. So yeah, very sad. Very, very sad. There we go. Okay. That's that. I'm going to move on. I'm going to try to blast through these subjects a wee bit quicker than I normally would, because I do tend to waffle. So, just while we're on, we may as well stay with the Americans, because, may as well stay with the Yanks. So here is, we know that, yeah. Let me just get this up here. Yeah, so there we go. So, Nancy Pelosi, again, and this is connected, obviously, so I'm going to put these two stories together. Pelosi going to Taiwan to stoke the CIA, US foreign agency cutouts have been doing a number on Taiwan for a number of years now, funding an information war against China, aimed at the Taiwanese population to try and get them to be more anti-China. And one of the reasons is, I mean, I showed you, I wonder, do I still have that picture? No, I don't. I showed you last week of all the American military bases that ring China. Oh God, somebody just started up a lawnmower. I'm sure you can hear that, because I can't hear it through the mic here. Give me a sec. Jesus Christ, this sounds like a fucking Harley Davidson outside. Oh my God, John, put some oil in it. You want to blow it up? You can hear that, right? Because I can see the little thing flickering on the screen. That's going to sound like shit in the podcast. Oh well. Right, so we saw last week about the ring of American military bases around, literally surrounding China. No, the South China Sea, sorry. And I think, Taiwan is being used in this same sense. The Americans are going to flood, if it comes to a shooting war, the Americans are going to flood the country with weaponry, much like they're doing in Ukraine, and just step back and let them get on with it. And the thing that always amazes me is the willingness of the countries that are being clearly used, and they are being used to commit America's foreign policy adventurism. And whenever you say you're being used, you're talking about letting your people be used. In what way? They're going to die. Their lives are going to get worse. And if you're a part of the ruling class, you're a part of the ruling, the ruling tier of your. You're not doing your fucking job, and you're a fucking piece of shit. So let's do this. So Nancy, so here we go. So this is an article from Caitlin Johnston. She's very good. US military was just used to help a dementia patient try to start World War III. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has left Taiwan after a brief but diplomatically corrosive visit, the after effects from which may be felt for years to come. That's true. This isn't going away. Towards the end of her speech, alongside Taiwan's president Tsai Ing-wen, I'm again probably fucking mangled that, Pelosi's brain underwent one of its increasingly common software glitches, causing her to begin babbling inarticulately. Here's a transcript of what Nancy Pelosi's brain said. Well, you don't have to worry about a transcript because I have it here.
Sources of strength is democracy. I said at a meeting earlier with the parliamentarians, in our earliest days of our founding of our country, Benjamin Franklin, our presidency, said, freedom and democracy. Freedom and democracy on one thing, security here. If we don't have, we can't have either if we don't have both. So, security, economics, security, economy, and again, they're all, and governance.
Wow.
They're all related, and we want
this
Taiwan
woman
to always have
is third in line to the
freedom
throne. You know what I mean?
with security. And we're not backing away from that. Okay? Thank you.
Now, she's 82, and I don't mean to, you know, right, she had a bit of a brain fart, but she's obviously having a senior moment there. This woman shouldn't be, you know, she went, by all accounts, the White House didn't want her to go. I read reports that were saying they didn't want her to go. They know the dangers of this. Breaches the one China policy. So, back to Caitlin's article. Here's a transcript of what Nancy Pelosi said. So you just heard what she said. It said, but I'll read it anyway. In our earliest days at our founding of our country, Benjamin Franklin, our presidency, said freedom and democracy. Freedom and democracy. One thing, security here. If we don't have, we can't have either. If we don't have both. Not a fucking clue do I have what she's saying. Of course, Benjamin Franklin was neither a president of the United States nor a presidency. And the quote Nancy's floundering brain was reaching for was, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And there it is. Any society that will give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both. Slightly different, but same point. These are not difficult things to remember or articulate for someone with functioning grey matter. This is right up there with other famous neural malfunctions by the speaker, like her Bernie loves hearing gibberish from last year, Good Morning Sunday Morning restart in the middle of an interview a couple of years ago, and it calls to mind a DC pharmacist's casual remark in 2017 that he had filled prescriptions to treat Alzheimer's disease for some powerful decision makers on Capitol Hill. None of which would be a problem if you're talking about some little old lady whiling away her twilight years at a retirement home in Florida. But we're not. We're talking about one of the most powerful elected officials in the most powerful government on earth, third in line of succession to the presidency after the vice president. More importantly, we're talking about someone who just participated in an incendiary visit to Taiwan, which has ensured the escalation of dangerous Cold War tensions between major world powers could potentially have triggered a hot war with China. US war machinery, including aircraft carriers and large planes, were mobilised to provide security for Pelosi's visit ahead of her arrival. The United States military was just used to help a dementia patient try to start World War III. That's a great way of putting it, to be fair. China's response to Pelosi's provocation has thankfully been relatively measured, yeah. Though we're about to see Taiwan fully encircled by the Chinese Navy for a show of force unlike anything we've seen in decades, the Chinese sanctions upon Taiwanese commerce are still being announced. There will be political pressure in Beijing to escalate tensions with the US so as not to look weak, and the intensity of the new Cold War has certainly been ratcheted up a notch. But when it comes to hot war, it looks like humanity's better angels have prevailed for now. Thank God. I was genuinely concerned about this. I didn't think it was going to turn into... I was concerned it was going to turn into hot war. But, it didn't. But, in the back of your head, you're like, oh my God. None of this makes it acceptable for the world's most powerful government to send to politicians whose brains are leaking out her ears to try and stir up hostilities under cover of its military forces. The world is a worse place now than it was before Pelosi's plane touched down. Less safe, less wealthy, less kind, and more frightening. Not one ordinary person has benefited from her insanely hawkish provocation made in her final years on this earth, especially not the people of Taiwan. The US empire is sick and it is playing sick games with all our lives. As far as I'm concerned, its downfall can't come soon enough. Hear, hear, and so say all of us to all fucking empires. ChinaDaily.com. So this is another. I'm not going to read all this. It's quite a long. It's not that long, but I'll not read it anyway. So this is China Daily. This is a Chinese state affiliated news outlet. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan is political arson and will worsen Sino-U.S. relations. Taipei-based former CNN correspondent Mike Chinoy has written an article titled "What Does Nancy Pelosi Think She's Doing in Taiwan?" on Pelosi's controversial visit for the online foreign policy magazine. Like Chinoy, I too would like to know what motivated her to visit the island. The author of this is a guy called Harold Bruning. I wonder whether she's aware of the danger that her sojourn in Taipei will cause to not only Sino-US relations, the world's most consequential bilateral ties, but also global governance. The risky trip is a photo op to enable Pelosi to poke Beijing in the eyes as she's done in the past. And no doubt the visit was gratuitously provocative. So, yeah, there's quite a bit more there. I'm not going to read it though. And then there's another video. So she gets back from Taipei, Taiwan, and then she starts backpedaling. So she goes out onto the dais, the podium there at the White House Speaker's press conference, and she starts waffling about how much she loves China and da. Oh, check this out. This is fucking nuts.
When I was a little girl, I was told at the beach if I dug a hole deep enough, we would reach China. So we've always felt a connection there. When I was a little girl, I was told at the beach if I dug a hole deep enough, we would reach China. So we've always felt a connection there. When I was a little girl, I was told at the beach if I dug a hole deep enough, we would reach China.
What the fuck is she talking about? So this is her. So she started the back paddle and she goes out onto the deck, and this is what she starts. She starts to say stuff like this. When I was a little girl, I was told if you dig you'd reach, and therefore I'm an ally of China, despite what I did last week. But I risk World War III. I shackle the chains of the dogs of war. Clearly provocative, clearly offensive, clearly insulting, clearly rolling back decades of foreign policy understanding, decades of diplomatic outreach and work for the better, for the betterment of peace. And this fucking mad old cunt is... So this Yahoo News, we are truly led by imbeciles. Twitter user slammed US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for saying she always felt a connection with China. During a speech on Friday in Tokyo, this wasn't in the White House, this was in Tokyo. I thought she was back in America. Well, she is now. The last stop of Pelosi's recent visit to Asia, Pelosi recalled a childhood memory about China when I was a little kid. You just heard it. The speaker's comment ignited criticism on Twitter, with one user writing, "We are truly led by imbeciles." Benny Johnson, the host of The Benny Show and the chief creative officer of conservative group Turning Point USA, expressed disbelief at Pelosi's comments in a tweet. Imagine talking about Bernie needing to retire when Nancy Pelosi is causing global instability because of her stock portfolio, and explaining her connection to China is because someone told her to dig a hole in the beach to get to China. Exactly. And this stock portfolio thing, this is a big fucking part of that's motivating this fucking lunatic. Did Nancy Pelosi actually dig all the way from her home to China? Because I would totally get the connection she feels then, another user wrote. Unbelievable. Following the visit to Taiwan, China imposed sanctions on Pelosi and their immediate family. That's right. I haven't actually looked at that. Let me see what that is. So Pelosi has been sanctioned by China. Repercussions of Pelosi's visit. There we go. That's up. China's reaction. In this regard of China's grave concerns and firm opposition, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi insisted on visiting China's. All right, we know that. What were the sanctions? Stay with me. I want to see Nancy Pelosi. Possible war. Companies take caution. Oh, it doesn't really say. Well, it probably does. I could read the whole article, but I'm not going to right now. So, somebody's replied here. When I was a kid, my parents told me there were pots of gold and leprechauns at the end of the rainbow, so I've always felt a connection to Ireland. Isn't that what's the fucking difference? It's exactly the same. I drank too much on Sunday. I felt a connection to Ireland then too. I'm going to read a few more of these. These are great. Brilliant. I was positive there were shirt-tail relatives in the West Highlands. Their ancestors' ghosts used to pound me on Sunday mornings until my 23rd and me came in. My 23 and me came in. Now I'm just a cheap flat beer. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so there we go. There we go. World War III. Just so that this fucking lunatic, Nancy Pelosi, we've got it up on screen there, her net worth, age 82. Right? Just retire, woman. You fucking mental case. 82. She's worth $120 million. It's insane. Oh, look at this. What is this website? Net worth. Wealthygorilla.com. Nancy Pelosi net worth. That was just the first one that came up when I was doing my research. Unbelievable. Oh, here's a whole lot more. Kevin Gates. Ben Affleck. How much is Ben Affleck worth? Let's have a look. 150 fucking million bucks. At least he earned it. Right. Well, at least he fucking did the work for it. 150. Oh, Mike D. The Beastie Boys. 90 million. Oh, wow. Here's me fucking penniless. Anyway, so there we go. So, where is her? Off. There we go. Boom. Done. That's that bit done. This is going to continue. These people aren't stopping, and this is the part of the whole. It's the connective tissue through it all is American hegemony. America's tax base is being hollowed out. You can't spend $840 billion a year on weapons of war without being, and you can't fix a bridge, re-tarmac a motorway. Your people don't have access to cheap, affordable, or free, at the point of use, healthcare. The school system is apparently in fucking trouble. The teachers haven't come back to work, and the private prison population, 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's prison population, manufactured drug crises, invented by the fucking security state, the CIA and the like, in order to provide clients for the private prison. And you know, you can't, and then all your money, all the tax base is just going out. Corporations control, and what's happened with America, and it's increasingly happening with us here, the other side of the Atlantic. We're not just as far down the road as they are, I believe. But what happens is you become incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. You know? And that's what America is at the minute. And it's going to take a grassroots, ground-up movement, as same as it is on this island, and in our English, Scottish and Welsh brothers and sisters across the water. You can see it happening. You can see a general strike coming. So, let's do this next bit. Now, this is a brilliant article. Hey, oh, there's demos on the YouTube. Hey, man. Oh, cool. Coming through loud and clear. Can't hear that. Mike D fought for the right to part. Hey, yes, he fucking did. here, this is a great article. This is a mind blower. Check this out. So, Bank of America memo. I'm reading this, and this is about America again, but I'm going straight to us. This is just this is just indicative of where these people's brains are. So let's do this. Bank of America memo. We hope conditions for the American worker will get worse. A Bank of America This is an article from Ken Klippenstein at The Intercept. Another publication that does good work from time to time. Well, quite a lot, actually. A Bank of America executive stated that we hope working Americans will lose leverage in the labour market in the recent private memo obtained by The Intercept. Making predictions for clients about the US economy over the next several years, the memo also noted that changes in the percentage of Americans seeking jobs should help push up the unemployment rate. Can you imagine what? The memo, a mid-year review from June 17th, was written by Ethan Harris, the head of global economics research for the corporation's investment banking arm, Bank of America Securities. Its specific aspiration: by the end of next year, we hope the ratio of job openings to unemployed is down on the more normal highs of the last business cycle. The memo comes amid a push by the Federal Reserve to cool down the economy, informed by much of the same rationale, that high wages are driving inflation. This year, high wages are driving inflation. High wages? What high wages? I'm making the same money now as I was in the 90s, for fuck's sake. This year, the Fed has increased interest rates for the first time since 2018. Historically, this has caused recessions, and that is exactly what appears to be happening now. The Commerce Department reported Thursday that a gross domestic product has fallen for the second quarter in a row, indicating that a recession may have already begun. So, I'm not going to read all that. Bank of America, the headline, Bank of America memo revealed we hope conditions for American workers will get worse. So they want them to get worse. Why do they want them to get worse? Because it drives people, they want more people to be unemployed. Why do they want them to be unemployed? So they can't pay their bills. Why do they want them not to be able to pay their bills? So they can take their stuff from them. This happened in 2008. The amount of people's houses that were taken back created massive land banks for these hedge funds, and they now control another section of your economy. And this is why capitalism is a fucking bitch. So our erstwhile new Prime Minister, may as well call her that, because she's going to be it. This article from the BBC. Liz Truss has now. So here we go. I'll read this first. Martin Lewis, for those of you that don't know who he is, he's often referred to as the most trusted man in Britain. He runs that moneySavingExpert.com. I'm sure if you watch the news, you've seen him quite a lot recently. Literally ringing the alarm bells, telling the government that they need to get off their asses and do something about this cost of living crisis, which is incoming, and it's here, and it's going to get worse, and it's because these companies keep putting their prices up. So the Bank of America memo about high wages causes inflation, but no one ever mentions company profits causing inflation, and the company profits came first, so they were extracting more and more wealth out of the economy. They caused the inflation crisis. Then the workers put their hands up and say, excuse me, this 2% pay rise that I've been offered isn't enough. I need more. You're causing inflation. How am I causing it? If inflation was here, and if the workers, as Eddie Dempsey says, if the workers have to take a haircut, why come they never say anything about the hedge funds, the shareholders, or the corporations that are taking massive profits, dividends and bonuses all the time? That never comes into the conversation. It's always on the worker. So Martin Lewis says here, now this is terrifying. This is fucking terrifying. Tragic news. The latest Cornwall Insight prediction, based on Ofgem's new methodology, is an 81% price cap rise in October. An 81% price cap rise in October, taking a typical bill to £3,582 a year, and a further 19% in January. So £4,266 per year. Action and planning is needed now. The zombie government needs to wake up sooner than the 5th of September, which is when the new Prime Minister is going to be announced. So this is the thing. The government that are in charge, the Tory party of Britain, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, the Tory and Unionist Party, as they like to call themselves, they're not doing anything. They've just gone off on a fucking parliamentary break during a crisis. So Martin Lewis continues, these amounts are unaffordable for millions. The January figures equate to 45% of the full new state pension and a higher proportion of the old one. The rise alone on the January prediction from when the help was first announced in May is roughly £1,400 a year. So, just go back. 81% price cap in October, taking the bill, a typical bill, to £3,582 a year, and then another 19% increase in January. That price alone swallows up not just the £400 help for all homes, but even the £1,200 for the poorest. This will leave many destitute. Tax cuts won't help the poorest, including many elderly and disabled who have higher usage. Cutting green levy be just a tiny sticking plaster on a gaping wound. The leadership debate must not ignore this portentous national cataclysm anymore. They can't say they weren't warned. The excuse we need to wait for the Ofgem figure doesn't wash. In May, government asked Ofgem for forward guidance and made plans on that. It can do the same now. An action plan is needed today. They are all in the same party. Let's call on them to come together for the good of the nation rather than the personal point scoring people's livelihoods, mental well-being, etc., etc. Right? So we know that. So what he's referring to is whenever these fucking pricks are being challenged, why are you not doing something about this crisis? It's incoming. It's here. We need to do something. They say, oh, well, we have this sort of gentleman's agreement that we won't do, any incoming Prime Minister. We shouldn't put in any significant legislation that they're going to have to kind of deal with. We should just sort of... So they have a gentleman's agreement, these scum of the earth. Not a gentleman among them, nor a gentlewoman. And people are faced... If I have a £5,000 bill, I mean, you're basically saying, here's a £5,000 bill. I don't know about you. I don't have £5,000 to cover an unexpected bill. And this is the fucking point. It's unnecessary. It's down to fucking greed and greed only. And then, whenever Liz Truss is challenged, she says this. Liz Truss defends energy firms, saying profit is not evil. Liz Truss has defended earnings at energy companies amid soaring prices, saying profits should not be considered dirty and evil. The Tory leadership hopeful said windfall taxes on profits, urged by some to help fund help for households, were about bashing businesses. So people are staring down the fucking barrel of a shotgun, of a unexpected £5,000 bill. Now, I know, and I know you know, some people that have got quite well paid people, good middle class people, nice job. They can't afford a £5,000 bill. They don't have that. I mean, they're going to be better equipped to cover it, but I know people that are in really good jobs. I've got a couple of messages on my Twitter account saying as much, and they said exactly that. I can't afford this. I don't know what I'm going to do. So So back to this fucking we are ruled by imbeciles, as the Yahoo News account pointed out. We are ruled by imbeciles. We're about bashing businesses. She said cutting taxes was the best way to help with living costs over winter. Cutting taxes. Taxes that pay for your healthcare, your education, your infrastructure. But rival Rishi Sunak said millions would be left at risk of destitution without more energy payments. He has proposed spending billions on further payments to pensioners and the low paid over winter, arguing tax cuts won't help them enough. How best to respond to surge in energy prices has become a key battleground and contest to replace Boris Johnson. The energy has come to dominate the contest in recent days after prices were forecast to rise over £4,000 a year, as I just told you. Get this. Earlier this month, BP reported its biggest quarterly profit in 14 years of £6.9 billion, while Shell posted a record profit of £9 billion. When he was Chancellor, Mr Sunak added a 25% surcharge to the profits of oil and gas sector since the end of May. But speaking at a hustings in Cheltenham, Ms Truss said she absolutely did not support windfall taxes, calling it a Labour idea. It's all about bashing businesses and it sends the wrong message to international investors and to the public, the Foreign Secretary added. Unfucking believable. I don't think profit is a dirty word, and the fact that it's become a dirty word in our society is a massive problem. Now that is a load of bullshit right there. Who the fuck thinks profit is a massive problem? Profit in and of itself. I'm a very, very lefty socialist, as you know. Borderline. I'm in the communist sort of territory. That's where I kind of live quite comfortably. And I have no problem with someone making a profit. Someone buys something, makes something, builds something, sells it on. No problem at all. The problem that we have, and it's obvious, we don't even need to, she's obviously, she's throwing up smoke grenades to try and distract, right? The problem is not profits. The problem is that these greedy bastards are so fucking hell-bent on their own personal enrichment that they are literally prepared to see people die. And if you're not going to die, you're going to live in stress, which will contribute to your early demise eventually. That's who these people are. And we have governments, we vote for governments to keep them under control. Depends how much, that's what your whole Overton win, that's what your left to right spectrum is all about. The far right people don't want any government oversight, and then people like me want government oversight. Now, I would say to you that this is evidence that people like me are right. If you needed any, if you did need any, I'm right. They're wrong. These BP 6.9 billion record profits. Now, did they not think that we can see, so if I have a £5,000 bill incoming and you've got record profits? Are these two things connected? I've read reports and watched videos and stuff where they try to say, oh no, it's not, they're not connected. How are they not fucking connected? Fuck off. Of course they're fucking connected. The solution, and it always was the solution, was nationalisation. Privatisation is the problem. We need to nationalise all these things again. We need to nationalise the oil company. We need to nationalise the water companies. I've got an article here. Throw that up again. In a climate crisis, privatised water is a disaster. As climate change intensifies, droughts are like the present one hitting Britain, are only going to become more common. We can't afford profiteering water companies leaking 2.4 billion litres of water a day. Since they privatised the water companies, the water supplies, these companies have they don't do any infrastructure. So whenever people like Liz Truss says, we don't want to do a windfall tax because it will deter foreign investment, they don't invest. They don't build the infrastructure. The infrastructure in America is crumbling. The infrastructure here is crumbling. These private companies, every time they have to fix something, that's profit not going into their fucking shareholders, into their own bank accounts. So they don't. You don't need to be a genius. You do not need to go to Harvard and do a fucking degree in economics to understand that basic concept. These people are motivated to not do any infrastructure work. They will let this crumble. I saw a satellite image of the United Kingdom today. The whole of England, more or less, is brown. It's this colour here, up on the screen here. That's England has had in a heat wave and has had for a while. We've had one this week. It's only nice weather we've had this year. So now they're going to ration the water. So here's a little bit from this article. I'm not going to read it all, but the necessity of water ration is not down to the shock of climate change-induced heat. It's also a result of the water company's own negligence. Around 20% of a water supply is lost through leaks. Across the country, that accounts for approximately 2.4 billion litres every day. Under Thames Water jurisdiction, the rate of loss rises to about 24%. Leaks usually waste a steady supply of water, but sometimes they lead to crisis situations. In North London recently, a 36-inch mains pipe burst, causing flooding and sinkholes to form in roads in a residential area. Okay, so the privatisation of the water authorities by Margaret Thatcher in 1989 created a racket in which the profiteering beneficiaries have been free to siphon off money to shareholders and bosses, and that's what they do in all the industries, in the Royal Mail, the telecommunications, the oil and gas, everything that used to be owned by the people. There is no imperative to invest in upgrading infrastructure, weather repairs, or adapting to climate change. Instead of taking action, bosses have given themselves bonuses amounting to around 27 million in the past 2 years. The boss of Thames Water, one of the worst offenders, took home a 727,000 bonus alone on top of her £2 million salary last year. While these profits go into private pockets, the cost of our failing water system are left with the public. We collectively pay 2.3 million more per year for water than if it had never been privatised. And then the calls here is to renationalise. In response to this, the Liberal Democrats have called for a halt to the water company bosses' bonus. That's a typical Lib position to do. I feel that sounds like we must privatise. We need to privatise it all. It all needs to come back, all of it. Demos on here. Sorry guys, I got into a wee bit of a fucking rant there, so I haven't been reading my messages. Demo says 50 chip shops have closed in the north in the last month due to sky-high electricity and gas prices, as well as the huge cost increases in fish, flour, vegetable oil. And that's before the increases in September and October. Fuck me, 50! By the way, I'm sweating like fuck. It's really warm in here. I had to close the door. Thomas Clark, I don't understand why my Nicky toilet tissue 4-pack still says special price on it when it's been put up 50p. There you go. That's a very niche little observation, Thomas Clark. But no less concerning for us all. We shall initiate a general strike immediately, if not sooner, to get an answer to your problem. 1/5 of the demo says 1/5 of the water in the UK is lost to leaks, but the paltry fines issued for not fixing the leaks are not big enough deterrent for the water companies to fix the leaks. There you go. So that's exactly it, and that's a part. The solution is nationalisation. We need to renationalise. These people are psychopaths. They're not interested in governing, and that's a part of the sort of realisation I've come to that have come to realise that they don't want to govern, because it's a part, and it, again, that article, we're governed by imbeciles. We can be governed by imbeciles now because they don't do anything. Because there's such free market psychopaths that they don't need to. They believe they don't need to. They're ideologically so driven to let the free market, the so-called free market, no such thing as a free market, to let the free market take care of absolutely every issue, that a fucking half-wit like Liz Truss is going to be the next Prime Minister. An obviously corrupt clown like Boris Johnson was the Prime Minister. An imbecile like David Cameron, again, led the country through the disaster of Brexit, through hubris, because he wanted to slap it up Boris Johnson a wee bit, and through his own imbecility, and then walks away, Humpty-Dumpty-Dum, remember that? Going into number 10. So, under this extreme neoliberal right-wing ideology, you can be a fucking fool. You can be an idiot, because you don't have to govern. You don't have to do anything. The free market will take care of it, which is why Liz Truss comes out with something in the midst of this crisis where people are genuinely fucking concerned and worried, why she can come out and say something as bad as this. And profit is not evil. Profit should not be considered dirty and evil. No one's saying a profit is evil. What we're saying is if you're so fucking greedy that you're making record profits of billions and billions and billions, and the people that are paying for that are literally, how am I going to heat my house in the winter? How are we going to do this? It's a smoke grenade, that's all it is. So that's her just throwing up a smoke grenade, distraction, whatever. No. It's not because people are concerned about how they're going to heat their homes in the winter. It's because everyone's a fucking communist. That's it. That's all we've got. That's the two ends of the discourse. It can go no deeper than that, no wider than that, and it certainly can't get anywhere near the fucking truth. So there we go. This thread here, this is the last one. British energy bills forecast to, then you can see on the thing there, heat or eat. My understanding is that if you're considered in fuel poverty, if you spend 10% or more, if your income, now this is interesting. Now listen to this. And your income on fuel bills, does that mean that basically everyone earning 50,000 or less, based on that number, will be considered as such? So you're considered to be in fuel poverty if you spend. Just move that. Sorry. If you spend 10% or more of your income on fuel. So that means if the fuel bills are going up to £5,000 a year, then you need to make 50 grand. Now, that's lots and lots, and I don't know what percentage of the middle class that would be, but that you're looking at about 70-80% of the fucking population. So on down, there was another wee interesting comment here. I find it very interesting. There's a girl here. I work for the NHS. I'm on a middle band, not minimum wage, but not a huge amount. I've just applied for evening work with Amazon. Horrible company, but the first job I've found that's work from home in the evening. Our fixed deal on our energy and mortgage ends at the start of next year. We will not survive without extra income. Our department has no overtime since the budget is so tight, and so the only option is second job. I feel like an American. Americans are working around the fucking clock, 2 and 3 jobs, barely making rent, and it's only going to get worse. And then someone replied, I am an American. My utility bills are regularly 20% of my take-home pay, and we are considering bankruptcy because of medical debt. Fuck me. I swear they were trying to make us poor so we can't travel, so we don't realise this is not the greatest country in the world. Burn it down as far as I'm concerned. Wow. That's amazing. That's a Reddit thread on Reddit. I could just read that out. That's a podcast in itself. It's shocking stuff. So listen, there we go. I'm going to call this. That's me done. Terrifying stuff. Lighting it up there on. Cheers, dude. As I said at work the other day, Tony G's on the fucking YouTube here. As I said at work the other day, the ruling class have convinced the middle class that it's all the benefit class's fault. Absolutely, Tony. That's it. But it inevitably led to a lack of investment in infrastructure. Oh, so sorry. So this is Demo was saying 1/5 of the water in the UK is lost to leaks, but the paltry fines issued for not fixing the leaks are not big enough deterrent for the water companies to fix the leaks, but it inevitably led to a lack of investment in infrastructure and a massive siphoning off of income through shareholder dividends and executive pay packets. Exactly. And that's what the whole privatisation structure, the whole privatisation model, the PPI, the finance initiatives that built, the new Labour government built a lot of the hospitals under, as we know. It was all a big scam as well. You're going to be paying, if it was a £30 million loan to build a hospital, the taxpayer's going to end up paying 10 times that over the course of decades. So I've been saying this for years. I'm sure a lot of you guys have too. Privatise a lot of it, nationalise a lot of it. It all needs to come back into public hands, all of it. And they say, well, what about the fucking shareholders? What about the pensions that the hedge funds? Well, the pensions are still there. Instead of taking those profits and giving them to hedge funds, let's take those profits and put them in the pensions. We can do that instead, right? As we know, a lot of the horrible fucking thing, one of the horrible things I've learned this past few years is, and it's come to light again because of people like Mick Lynch and Eddie Dempsey with the real women going on strike. Some of the biggest shareholders in the British railway infrastructure are actually the railway companies of Germany and France. So they're using the labour of the English railway men and women, and then they're using that to fund the pensions of the Germans and the French. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I will say, there's a great documentary, by the way, on politics, Joe Politics. And it's a sit down with Eddie Dempsey and Mick Lynch, and they're having just an hour's chat. And it's great crack, sitting down in the pub having a pint, which is where I'm going now. You should watch it. Just Google it, or you'll get it on YouTube. It's brilliant. Yeah, so that's me. I'm going to call this, boys. Listen, thanks for dropping in there. Demo says, shades of the class sketch in the Two Ronnie show with John Cleese and Tony. Yep. And that's right. I remember that. I looked down on him. So, that's me. I'm out of here. I'm going to go. Thanks, boys, for joining in. Thanks for your comments. I really appreciate it. Everybody else, like, share, subscribe. Throw a wee like on this. Really helps, apparently. So I keep getting told. My likes, the views have been going up on YouTube. YouTube videos are rolling up steadily. They're still not great, but they're kind of getting there. And it takes time to build these things. So I'm going to persevere with it and get her just build this up. And then the problem is that I want to take these videos and then chop them all up, throw them out as 10-minute bits. I just don't have the fucking time to do it. Editing videos is quite laborious. So there's that. Yeah, like, share, subscribe. Head over to the Patreon if you want. And it's a couple of £1 a month. That's all it is. Price of coffee, as they keep saying. And it just helps keeps the lights on here at Super 8 Echotronic. Good night, Tony. Good night, Damo. Good night, Thomas Clark. Thanks for joining me. I'm away for a pint. And that's me. Take care, boys. Bye.